Hello, and thank you for joining me for luminance masking. Luminance masking is how we can create masks based on the image itself. And we're going to create two masks, one for the highlights and one for the shadows. And it's not difficult, um, but I want to make sure you get it. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up and go from layers to channels. If you notice the cursor, it's just the hand pointing finger. I'm gonna hold down the command key. Now it has a dotted box in the bottom right corner, and that means if I click on the image icon of the combined RGB channel, it will load it as a selection line. And that's true if I do the same thing on any of the separate layers. So, but what Photoshop does is essentially copies all of the gray information, the luminance of the file, and makes a selection line. The, the marching ants that you see here are indicating where the luminance density is at middle gray, 128, and so that's what they illustrate. Now what we want to do is we need to create turn the selection lines into a mask. So I'm going to add a curves. As soon as I do, it creates a layer mask with the curve, and I'm going to option click on the layer mask, and that's what it looks like. And that's the density behind the color. That's what makes the colors brighter and darker. And so this is what we just selected, and this is the mask. Now what I want to do is create an actual mask. So what I want is black in the shadow areas, or very dark grays, so there's not going to be any effect. And I want pure white in my brightest highlights and my brightest whites, because that's what I really want to affect with this mask. So in order to change these tones into a more black and white type of mask, I'm going to go to Image, to Adjustments to Levels, or Command L is the keyboard shortcut. And let me zoom in, do a screen zoom, and you can kind of see some of it. The right arrowhead changes the white values. The left arrowhead changes the black values, and the center one changes the contrast, the tone, how many tones between them. So not sure why, but I always start with the white. And if you notice, all the whites are really gaining brightness. So those are the higher values. Then if I slide the black to the left, now I have a lot more or deeper blacks in there. Then I can change where my whites are and how much black, as you can see here. So do I want that darker water to be affected or not affected? So now just the tops and just the smallest pieces of white is what's going to be affected in here. And so I'm going to leave it here, and I'm going to click on OK. Now when I come back out, I will option click on the layer mask to turn it back off, or the visibility of it. I'm going to double click on the icon of the curves. Now if I just go real simple, notice the background, the shadow area of the plant here, those are not being changed. And even the water value is staying the same because I saw that as black. So now all the brighter whites are truly being controlled. And again, the water is black, as you can see here, except for back here and here. So, and all the background. Now, if I like this brightness for this ring and for the lily pads, I could keep that, but the brightness for the sidewalk and the background is still a little much because I have these white pieces coming in right back here. All the trim on the building is white. So those are also being affected. If I turn on the mask, I'm going to go to my brush, and now I can paint with black to get rid of all the effect from the building. Just that simply. If I don't want any effect on the sidewalks, I could do the same thing. And I'm going to zoom in on the sidewalk over here. I thought I was. There we go. And now I can just paint black all in there. Obviously, I would want to be very, very neat, and I'm not going to be right now. But my point is I can change this mask. This mask is designed, or is supposed to be designed, for me to have control the way I want control in all of these areas. So now, after I paint this real quick, it already has that pole as black, so that I don't have to paint around it. All right, just for example, I'm going to option click again, and I'm going to double click on the layer. Now the sidewalk will have zero effect, and the background, even the white trim, has zero effect. So now I can isolate those areas that I really want and to control, and I can, which is really a beautiful way to go. All right, so that's the highlights. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to add another curves adjustment layer, and it's going to affect everything because it has that white mask, which means I'm going to affect the whole image globally. But what I'm able to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to do Option Command and then click and drag the mask and put it on top of the white layer mask of Curves 2. When I do, it says Photoshop asks, do you want to replace? I click on yes. Now I have the same exact mask in Curves 1 and in Curves 2, but the problem is I want in just the opposite, because this is for highlights. I want it just for shadows. So if I click on the layer mask and the properties panel is open, then I get the properties for mask, and you can click on invert, or you can just simply tap Command I when you're highlighted on the mask, and you'll have the same thing. I'll close that up, option click on the mask, and what we have are the highlights are black, the shadows are white. So that's exactly what we needed to have the complete opposite effect. And I'm going to option click, I'll double click, and now those black areas, you can see the leaves are not being controlled. You know, anything that's black in this mask is not getting the density value. And again, I can come in and I can paint on the mask to change it. So if I'm come to this one, and once again I don't want the sidewalks to be affected, I paint with black. So just to illustrate, I clicked once, so I have a broken frame on the layer mask. I don't need to see it, and you can see that the sidewalks are not coming bright to be all brightened up as I wanted. So I can change this mask just as much as I want, just as I did earlier. Now, one thing, because these are changing densities, I would change normal to luminosity on both of these, so we're not affecting the color values and oversaturating the colors that were being affected. And what I can also do is I'm going to come in and add a color balance layer, and I'll readjust it here. And I would probably come in and, like on this one, I would name it curves, but I would add in shadows. That way I can remember exactly what it's for. I don't have to try to figure it out and do the same thing for this highlights, and leave the curves on there, and again I can say for shadows. But you said, Mr. Ford, there's no mask, but you remember how to copy and paste. So we're going to hold down Option Command, click and drag, drop it on here, click on yes. Now when I come in, I'm going to double click on the color balance icon, all the shadows, and if you notice the green of the leaves, the highlights here aren't changing color, sidewalk's not changing color, but notice the building, because it's in the shadow area, and anything that's white or gray will have some effect on the color. So I can control the color very, very easily. and separately, because I can do this. I can also change that if I'm changing for color with it. I could change normal to color, and that way it's not affecting adversely the density, the luminance value that we have coming back through. So that is luminance masking and how we control our highlights and shadows and more on layer masking.